And I think we're good. Well, for those of you that may be hearing me across the vast spaces of the internet, my name is Jordan, aka Manky Games, and I will be presenting to you the first recorded installment of the D&D campaign Siege of the Empire. Because this is the first recorded installment and not necessarily the first session that we played, I'm going to go through some background into what the lore of the world is, so that for those of you just joining us, you can understand what's going on and what we're doing. Give me 1 second. Cool. Alright, so the Siege of the Empire campaign is set in the Warhammer universe in the year 2009. And that's 2009 after Sigmar. For those of you that don't know much about Warhammer lore, there's plenty of resources available for it. However, this world is a slightly modified world to suit D&D a bit more properly, as the Warhammer setting clashes slightly with what D&D tries to do, with the exception of the massive amount of killing things. However, the world that we play in is quite massive in size. Let me pull up. Let's see here. I will bring up the map of our world for you. Let's call that one up. That's what I want. Cool. So this map is not designed by me. I was able to actually find this map, and once I did, I realized that it would make a absolute perfect setup for the Dungeons and Dragons universe. And as soon as it decides to load here, there we go. This is our glorious world that we exist in. This whole area here, you can see in the middle, is the Empire, the Elven lands, Bretonia, the Arabi lands, which are just your typical desert-dwelling folk, the land of the dead in this area here, giant lands, and then obviously to the north we have the Norse people. However, most of our adventure takes place in the Empire, in this region here. I'm not going to give you a recap on all of the things that we've done in the past, as this session, or this campaign, has been going on for about 3 months now. It would be a lot of information to cover, but I'm sure that you will get an introduction to all of the characters that exist within this world through the gameplay that we provide for you. So there's that. As I said, the World of Warhammer itself is a very grim, dark setting. It's very much a almost dark fantasy setting. I tend to put a slightly more light-hearted spin on what goes on within the world. That's awesome. Bye. Cool. There we go. However, as my players will be the first to tell you, it is not the easiest of campaigns to go in. I definitely do not pull punches. For those of you that are interested in the more D&D aspect of things, this is something I hope to in the future be bringing you more information about in the coming months, as this kind of kicks off a little bit more. My hopes and dreams obviously are to eventually do a prep session for Twitch and for YouTube, which all of these videos will be going to kind of give people a idea of how to really run and operate a world on this scale, because I can tell you that it is quite a daunting task. It is not something that is easily completed and requires many hours of the DM's time. However, to kind of get you caught up to speed here, let me zoom in. So our protagonists in this vast world that we play in are these 6 individuals here. We have Wolfram Geis, who is a Goliath warrior, Goliath fighter, I'm sorry. Kind of a jack of all trades. His personality, I'm sure you'll see, is quite unique. We have a male Iron Oath. Male Iron Oath is a dwarven ranger who is, as I'm told, absolutely nothing like Varric from Dragon Age. There is no correlation whatsoever, 0 amount of correlation there. We have Rocker Cower Starstala, who is also a Goliath. However, he has gone the barbarian path, as a lot of Goliaths do. If you've ever played a game of 5th edition, it's not a very uncommon trope. However, Raka has a few interesting quirks about him that make him kind of the lovable giant that he is. We have Jericho Tannhauser, and Jericho here is our bard. He is the party face. He's the one that keeps Raka out of trouble with the guards and makes sure that the narrative of the game progresses as such. We have Milo Trickfoot with his familiar Hedwig, a halfling wizard. And it should be noted that in this world there are no such thing as gnomes and there are no such thing as dragonborn. They have been refluffed to represent halflings as far as the gnomes are concerned. They're just a different breed of halfling. And the Dragonborn have been refluffed to be lizardmen in this world, and how we kind of validate the Dragonborn having their breath weapons is they're chosen by the old gods, who the lizardmen worship to possess these abilities. While they're quite rare in these lands, they're not unheard of. They do exist. The last individual, we have Zech Ogon, and Zech is a dragon sorcerer. Unique character. He is very aloof and very not from this world. His appearance is very eye-catching, which I'm sure you guys will realize quite early on in the session. We have had some others in the past. This individual right here, Mr. Jebedo, he was a former paladin of the group who has since gone his separate way. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about what he does at some point. And then our fallen board, we have Deidrin, and Deidrin was a warrior who valiantly fought against many thugs, however, was unfortunately alone, and that's what happens in Dungeons & Dragons when you are all alone. You die. Unfortunate as it is, that's what happens. There's some notable characters down here that I'll explain. So far, the party has only really met 1 or 2 of these individuals, and you'll see those are the ones denoted by the names. We have Zavros Stalking Wolf and Dorothy Baker. You'll see that Dorothy Baker has an X. Unfortunately, the last session that I did was unable. We had not started recording yet. However, she was a vampire, or recently turned vampire, who was previously a spellcaster in her previous life. She gave the party quite some trouble, and was definitely an influential part in the last couple of sessions that we had. However, they were able to corner her and defeat her. Zavros Stalking Wolf, this guy over here, all hooded and cloaked, is a very monk-like figure. He's actually he runs a very significant branch of the Grey Order, which is a order within the world that it's a magical order. It's one of the 8 magical orders within the world of Warhammer. However, they are very kind of in the shadows, very pulling the strings from afar type organization. They generally don't face problems head on. They get others to do their work for them and like to rest in the shadows. Kind of a very clandestine group in the long run of things. But Zavros himself, the party has met him and identified him, so we've got him down there. We have a lot more individuals to meet, obviously, throughout the campaign. Some good, some bad, some kind of in the middle, in the gray areas. So that'll be exciting, and for my characters as we go along, we'll be introduced to all of them. That brings me to the calendar. So this is the calendar that we use. for those of you that are wondering how to create awesome calendars for your players, I suggest that program that nobody ever uses anymore called Microsoft Publisher. It just gives you a template, you just plug and play all of your things in. I know it's archaic and disgusting, but hey, it works. So you can see this green box here denotes the exact date that it currently is within the game. We started the game on the 2nd of Natrixen, right here. And you'll see there's also holidays input in here. All the holidays here. For example, in Jahrdron, there is no holiday. However, when we get to the end, there is in Flugezeit, and that is the spring equinox. Primary worship to Manan, Tal, and Ulrich. So that'll be probably a significant day in the history of the PCs. We'll have to see what's going on that day, but in order to do that, we gotta survive this whole month here. We just have a quick little thrown up of our map here. It's not very, the resolution is very high because Roll20 doesn't like large files as the map is, unfortunately. So let me tell you a few more things about our world, for those of you that may not know what exactly is going on. I'll give you an overview of what the party is currently working on. So the party was brought together because Jericho, our resident bard, half-elf, had heard rumors of treasure located in Midnheim. Oh, I'm sorry, not Midnheim. I apologize. No, yeah, Midnheim. I'm losing my mind. Jericho had put a group together, which ended up being the party, to go down into the tunnels underneath Minho, which are actually forbidden access to the general public due to the Skaven threat, and root out some Skaven-y people. They were able to do that successfully, and they acquired a gemstone, a very special gemstone. It has enchantment magic on it, or I'm sorry, abjuration magic on it. There's some gemstone of protection. You're unable to get a clear reading on it. However, the party then encountered, had these dreams or visions or whatever you would like to call them, all kind of reporting back to things that happen with their families, and they found a connection that way. In fact, for some reason or another, all of their families were tied together, either missing or haven't been heard from in a very long time. So it kind of brought the party together, and after coordinating with the Gold Order, which is another magical order that exists within this world, they were told that there is a place called Melchior's Tower, where they might be able to find more information. Melchior's Tower, Melchior himself was a very ancient wizard in this world, who is not alive anymore, but left behind a lot of mysterious artifacts throughout his travels in the world. However, this tower itself is in kind of the Plague Lands-esque area of the Empire, up in Sylvania. It's actually Sylvania, for those of you who don't know, it's actually the old seat of the vampire counts. So the party has set out on their way to basically go to Melchior's Tower and hunt down. However, they've been waylaid along the way with various side missions and quests and banditry and what have you. So that is essentially where our party is located now. And as far as anything else in the world, there's really not a whole lot more going on that the players know about, which of course is what the audience will know about. Because I very much like to keep things a little bit hidden behind the curtain as a DM. So what else do we have? Oh, I guess I should give you guys a schedule. So this group plays every Friday from 6 p.m. Eastern to about 10 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes we run a little over due to what's going on. We don't want to leave a cliffhanger in the middle. But we do like to end on, kind of grandeur notes. But yeah, that's essentially what's going to go on. Recently, the party, as I said, defeated Dorothy Baker, the recently turned vampire countess, and they've left that particular dungeon, and they are now headed back to the town of, well, actually they haven't really decided what they're doing. Now that they've survived this, well, most of them have survived this, but they will be heading back to, I'm sure, a town to rest up for a few days. They're all kind of, well, some of them are kind of beat up a little bit. They need to recover some health. I guess the other thing I should mention is rules within the world. As far as like the DM rules, I'll take a moment now to go through some of the house rules and stuff that I have. So, a lot of these are from the book. A lot of these are of my own creation, or scavenged from other DMs that I know very well. So first of all, we'll go over resting. I use the slow natural healing variant in the Dungeon Master's Guide for 5th edition. It is something that I like a lot. It never really made sense to me that if you just sleep for 8 hours, you get absolutely everything back. All of your spell slots, all of your health, and it's just basically a reset button. With this particular world, it takes a lot of travel time to get in between from place to place, because I use very realistic models on how long it takes you to travel. So with that being said, a normal 5th edition ruling on the resting would cause the players to basically essentially be ready for every single fight all the time. With the slow natural healing variant, it allows me to slow down the party just a little bit, give it a little better feeling to it, and it also makes the party think a little bit more about whether or not they can push on, whether or not they can move out. The second is rations. I don't track rations as part of daily activities. However, I do have a method for tracking how everyone's living. I use the lifestyle expenses, which are in the player's handbook, page 157, 158. And each Sunday within the game, so basically every 7 days, the players will track they will pay a certain amount of gold essentially to the coffers to buy their food and bed for the day. How this affects in-game is the more money you spend, the more lavishly you live, and the more options open up to you. The town guard will look the other way if you have a certain amount of status within the world. The nobles will, maybe offer a quest worth a little bit more money. Additionally, if you go the other way, if you're living a very squalid or poor lifestyle, the guards may heckle you at the gates, or noble may refuse to speak with you because you're not clean. They don't want to have anything to do with you, and it kind of limits the work that you receive. So it's a very somewhat realistic model, social aspect. And as I'm being yelled at by Raka in the chat, I'm glad that is not on screen. So that's awesome. So we'll move on to combat now. So combat, we have a serious injury chart, which is essentially a table that I've created. Actually, for any of you that may know the reference, there is a tabletop battle game that was designed by Games Workshop called Mordheim: City of the Damned. In that game, first of all, one of my absolute favorite games of all time. However, in that game, there was a critical injury system that when a character was taken out of action or knocked out, they had to roll on this chart to see how serious the injury was. I adapted essentially the rules for that into this game. And how it works essentially is if a character falls unconscious and they suffer one death saving throw or a failure on a death saving throw, they throw in the serious injury chart to see at the end of the combat to see how effective they are. This can only happen once per combat, so I'm not gonna, for each death saving throw, I'm not gonna make somebody roll in the chart. Just once per combat if you fail a death saving throw. in the past, we've had one character, actually Jebediah, the character does not exist within the world anymore, rolled a leg wound, and for 3 weeks, essentially, he had -5 movement, which already as a halfling, that kind of limited him a little bit. Some of the injuries can heal naturally, some of them require magic to be healed. It all depends on what injury you actually get. Probably the most in-depth house rule that I have is one of my own creation and kind of salvage from a former DM that I used to have. Equipment wear and tear. This system is not designed to reflect 100% accurately the wear and tear that equipment would receive. However, it is designed to essentially make it so that characters do have to think about getting it repaired. A perfect example is Deidrin was taking a lot of hits to the armor, and I'll explain how that works in just a second. But Deidrin was taking a lot of hits to the armor, and if he loses that within a dungeon or anything, there's no way to repair it. He would have to either find another set of armor, or they'd have to leave the dungeon and go out. So it's designed to reflect a somewhat more realistic method of describing how beat up the characters get. It's a fairly easy system to keep track of, especially using the character sheets within D&D that we have. Essentially, you can see here on the tables, I have the light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, and shield, and then magical is in parentheses, and then below that the weapons. Weapons take damage from rolling a natural 1. I don't play with critical fails in this game. However, this is essentially your critical fail. Your weapon will take damage if you roll a natural 1. For armor, when a creature rolls to hit you with an attack, your natural dodge is first, followed by your shield, followed by your armor. So if the creature misses you, it can still hit your shield or your armor and cause it to take a point of damage. And you'll see here that the heavier armor you have, the more durability it has. So it's essentially pretty easy to think about, and it's also pretty easy to look at the repair cost. Now, as we found out in the party as well, it is 100% possible to repair your own equipment. Raka, the barbarian, is actually a blacksmith, and he has rolled previously in the past to repair his own armor for much cheaper cost than this. So there's ways to get around having to pay for your own equipment as well. But if Raka's ever out there, some of the other party members might have to pay an actual blacksmith to get this done. It adds a little bit more bookkeeping, but it also keeps the little bit of gritty realism that your armor is not invincible. So you go to the second house rules page here. Characters. This is mostly for my players, but I'll tell you how I do it because I'm a benevolent god. So, health gain and level up. I'm very much a big fan across the entire character creation system of allowing players a choice, allowing them a risk versus reward option. So you can see here the health gain on level up. The player may choose to roll, take the average dice, or take the average dice roll for their appropriate class. So I'm allowing either you to take the average or to roll. If you want to risk on the roll, then you can take that. Character creation stats, you have the options of 40, 60, 1 for each stat, standard array, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8, or point buy with 27 points. Whichever one you want to actually complete, you can do. Equipment. Start with any equipment listed in the background of player's handbook. However, you can sell the items that are in your equipment list for 50% of the price and buy anything you want. For characters that are above a higher level, then I work it out with that individual player on what anything special they might get. Restricted races, I already told you that before, but I will mention as well that Aarakocra and Genocide do not exist within this world, and I do not allow them. Tieflings, half-orcs, and drow absolutely exist within this world. However, they are evil. No ifs, ands, or buts. Inherently evil. A PC one of those is totally doable. However, they will either be kill on sight for most people on the outside, or they will be heavily persecuted. So, special armor. This is mostly for the special armor and special weapons. I won't go over it too in depth. It's mostly for my players. There are other types of armor and other types of steel and metal that exist within this world, and most of this is taken straight from Warhammer lore. So, for any of you that know anything about Warhammer, essentially any of those also exist here. So, let's see. Deities, I'll skip the deities for now, only because those are very easy to look up in Warhammer, and we're getting pretty close to time here. Locations. So, I have a little blurb on all the different locations that we have. Altdorf is the capital of the Empire. It's the seat of the Emperor. It is home to all of the Orders of Magic. Obviously, the Orders of Magic have places in other places, but this is where their base resides. Primary worship is Sigmar. No surprise there. It also contains 4 knightly orders: the Reiksguard, the High Helms, the Knights of the Fiery Heart, and the Knights Griffin. That's it on Altdorf. Marienburg. Marienburg is actually not a city in the Empire, but it is a major city within the world. It is actually the richest city within the world. It has the wealthiest, most trade. Their government is run by a council, which is essentially the 4 high priests, one to Manon, one to Hendrik, one to Verena, and one to Shalia, the dean of the College of Navigation and Sea Magics, and the 10 wealthiest merchant family heads. So it's very much true when I say wealth equals power in Marienburg. The more money you have, the more influence you have. Very archaic way of looking at things. Middenheim. This was actually the town that the player, or the city that the player started out with. Middenheim is a very old city. It is also set on a rock with a deep valley gorge surrounding it, and there are a labyrinth of tunnels underneath it. The tunnels used to be, they were created by the dwarves. However, they were overrun by the Skaven during one of the Skaven plagues. I believe it was the Red Plague. But Middenheim itself is ruled by a